Welcome to Neo and Jiho, Part 44. 2 days later, the villa hummed with anticipation that no one could hide. The staff moved quietly through the polished halls, flowers being arranged, calls answered in hushed tones, but all eyes returned again and again to the same thought. Neo's family would arrive that morning. For Neo, time moved like water and fire at once, fast and overwhelming, yet searingly slow. She hadn't slept properly the night before. She had counted the hours, replaying the sound of her uncle's voice on the phone, imagining the faces of her aunties, the laughter of her cousins, the calm blessing of the pastor. She had told herself it had only been 2 months since she last saw them in Botswana. Jiho had prepared everything personally. Nothing was left to chance. This wasn't an ordinary airport welcome. This was the executive lounge of Seoul International, dignitaries, and the most powerful names in business. Security had been doubled. Media had been granted limited access, allowed only to photograph discreetly from behind a cordoned space. Even so, the soft flash of cameras pulsed steadily, catching the sight of Jiho, billionaire heir, standing poised with his bride-to-be. Neo stood close to him, her hand resting unconsciously at her waist, guarding herself in that quiet way she often did, her hair flowing softly over her shoulders. Her sister Tumi hovered just behind her, unable to stay still, phone in hand, eyes sparkling with the excitement of a child about to unwrap a long-awaited gift. "They've landed," Tumi whispered breathlessly. "Uncle just sent a message. They cleared customs quickly. They're coming through now." Jiho checked his watch, then placed a steady hand over Neo's. "Breathe," he said gently. "They are almost here." And then the glass doors opened. A wave of familiar voices spilled in, carried on laughter and exclamations in Setswana and English. At the front was Uncle Molefe, tall and dignified, dressed in a pressed navy suit that fit him with quiet pride. His steps were steady, but his face betrayed no attempt at composure. His smile was wide, his eyes wet even before he reached them. "My daughters!" he exclaimed, his voice rich and deep. "Neo! Tumi! My pride!" Neo rushed forward, tears springing instantly. She fell into his embrace, his arms closing tightly around her as if 2 months had been 20 years. "Uncle?" she gasped, her voice breaking. Tumi clung to his other side, laughing through her tears. "Uncle, you are here!" "Yes," he declared, holding them both close. "And I will not leave until I see you both crowned with joy." Ah, what a day this is! Behind him, Auntie Naledi and Auntie Kagosi hurried forward, their dresses colorful, their voices high with excitement. Naledi took Neo's face in her hands, pressing kisses to her cheeks. "Neo, look at you. Still our flower, still our star. You shine brighter than ever." She turned to Tumi, smiling through her own tears. "And you, Tumi, you have grown into such a woman. Your parents would be so proud." The 3 cousins followed, but their eyes wide with awe. They hugged Neo and Tumi one by one, each greeting filled with warmth and restraint. "Sister Neo," Kagiso said softly, bowing his head. "Thank you for bringing us here. We will honor this day." Labang added, "We dreamed of it, and now we are walking in it." Bulo clasped Tumi's hands, smiling shyly. "It is more beautiful than we imagined. Korea, the journey, everything. Thank you." Neo squeezed their hands one by one, her laughter mixing with her tears. "You are here. That is all that matters." Then came Pastor Empho and his wife. The pastor placed his hands gently on Neo's shoulders, his eyes filled with peace. "My child, today is sacred. The Lord has guided us across oceans to stand with you. Your union will be blessed, and we will cover it with prayer." His wife embraced Neo tenderly, whispering, "We have waited for this day with you. You are not alone." The lounge was alive with sound, the joy of reunion, the murmur of Setswana greetings, the clicking of cameras capturing each embrace, each smile, each tear. Jiho remained close, but let Neo and Tumi receive the first flood of affection. Only after the embraces settled did Uncle Molefe turn toward him. Jiho bowed respectfully, and Molefe stepped forward, taking his hand firmly. "Jiho," he said with quiet conviction, "you kept your word. You opened your home and your heart to them. For that, I thank you." Jiho's voice was steady. "It is my honor, uncle. Family is not a burden. It is my blessing." Molefe's grip tightened briefly in acknowledgement. Then his gaze shifted to the man standing a step behind Jiho, Insu. Insu inclined his head politely. He was usually unreadable, his confidence absolute. But now, with so many eyes on him, there was a flicker of nerves. Uncle Molefe extended his hand to him warmly. "And you must be Insu. We owe you thanks as well. The journey was smoother than any we have taken. Everything was prepared with care. That is your hand in it." Insu bowed slightly, his voice low. "Yes, sir. It was my duty to make sure nothing troubled your travel." "Then we are grateful," Molefe said firmly. The aunties nodded in agreement, their faces softened with respect. Neo glanced between them, her heart swelling. Gratitude radiated from every corner of the room, but dignity wrapped around it like fine cloth. This was her family, joyful, yes, but deeply respectful, knowing the weight of where they stood and who they stood before. As staff began collecting luggage, the family's excitement spilled out in waves of chatter. Auntie Naledi gasped at the lounge's gleaming chandeliers. "Even the lights look like diamonds," she whispered. Auntie Kagosi pressed her hand against one of the leather chairs. "Hey, Neo, is this real leather? It feels like butter." The cousins exchanged wide-eyed looks. Kagiso leaned close to Tumi, whispering, "Even the plane was like a dream. First class. Ah, we had beds in the sky. Can you imagine? Beds in the sky." Libang nodded eagerly. "And the food. I told the stewardess I was not hungry, but when she brought the tray, I ate everything, even the dessert." Bulow laughed softly, still trying to be restrained. "I could not even sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I opened them again just to make sure it was real." Neo and Tumi laughed through their tears, holding their hands tightly. "And now you are here," Neo said softly. The convoy arrived at the Riverside Grand Hotel, its shining towers casting reflections across the river below. The Botswana relatives stepped out of the SUVs into the private entrance, their voices filled with awe as they gazed up at the gleaming facade. "Hey, Neo," Auntie Naledi said, clutching her shawl. "This looks like heaven on earth. Are we really staying here?" Neo smiled, slipping her arm through hers. "Yes, Auntie. This is your home until the wedding." The cousins exchanged wide-eyed glances, whispering among themselves about the chandeliers they could already glimpse inside and the polished cars pulling in and out of the driveway. Inside the marble-floored lobby, the family gasped again. A grand chandelier cascaded from the ceiling like frozen rain. A pianist played softly in the corner, filling the air with delicate notes. Staff greeted them with bows and perfect English, ushering them toward the check-in desk prepared especially for them. Uncle Molefe pressed his lips together, nodding in approval. "Dignity. This is how a wedding should be honored." Neo felt her throat tighten with emotion. This moment mattered more than she could put into words. Jiho and Insu stood with the family only briefly. Both men greeted the relatives warmly, ensuring they felt settled. But after a few minutes, Jiho explained politely, his tone calm but firm. "Family, Neo and Tumi will remain with you today. I must leave with Insu. We have our final fittings to complete and last-minute appointments. You will be safe and comfortable here." The family nodded respectfully. They understood the demands of such a wedding. Auntie Naledi even said softly, "Go, Jiho. Do what must be done. We are in good hands with your bride and her sister." Neo touched Jiho's arm briefly, her eyes shining with gratitude. Jiho kissed her forehead lightly, then gave Tumi a nod of trust. With that, he and Insu stepped out together, their tailored coats brushing past the staff as two of Korea's most powerful men moved discreetly back into the city. The family watched them leave, their posture respectful. No one dared call after them or joke. Instead, they murmured softly about Jiho's stature, his composure, and Insu's quiet strength. When the glass doors closed behind them, the air relaxed. The Botswana relatives turned eagerly back to Neo and Tumi, their excitement bubbling over. Tumi guided them through the process of receiving key cards and instructions. The suites were large, 3 reserved for the uncles and aunties, 2 for the cousins, and 1 for Pastor Empho and his wife. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner are all included here, Tumi explained clearly. But tonight we will eat at the villa with grandmother, tomorrow is rest and clothing fittings, and the day after tomorrow— "The wedding!" Auntie Kagosi exclaimed, clapping her hands. "Ah, it has finally come!" Laughter and joyful murmurs filled the lobby. The cousins bowed slightly to Neo, their respect showing even through their excitement. "Thank you for this honor," Kagiso said. "We will not forget it." Neo smiled, tears in her eyes. "We are one family. This honor belongs to all of us." The cousins asked about Insu. Later, while waiting in the lounge for the bellboys to deliver luggage, the cousins leaned closer to Tumi, their voices dropping slightly in curiosity. "Tumi," Labang asked softly, "the man who left with Jiho, the tall one, calm, with quiet eyes. Who is he?" Tumi hesitated only a moment. Then her lips curved into a small smile. "That is Insu." "And?" Kagiso pressed gently. Tumi's cheeks warmed. "He and we are dating." A ripple of excitement passed between the cousins. Bulo clasped his hands together dramatically. Tumi Mole, you kept this quiet." The girls laughed lightly, keeping their tone careful but playful. "He looks very handsome," Kagiso said with admiration. "And strong. He carries himself with calm." "Yes," Labang agreed. "You chose well, sister." Tumi laughed softly, waving them off. "We are taking it slow, step by step, but everything will fall into place in God's time." Their smiles deepened, their respect shining. "We will pray for it," Kagiso said warmly. "He suits you." Tumi lowered her head slightly, gratitude in her eyes. Later that evening, after the family had eaten at the hotel restaurant, Tumi sat with Pastor Empho and his wife in a quiet corner. The chandelier's light bathed the space in soft gold. "Pastor," she began carefully, "there is something I want to tell you." He leaned in, his expression open. "Speak, child." "It is about Insu," she said softly. "We are together, slowly but together. I thought you should know." The pastor's wife clasped her hand instantly. "Tumi, that is wonderful news." Pastor Empho smiled gently. "We have watched Insu today. He is a man of calm, a man of discipline. If your heart is with him, then it is good. We will pray over it, that everything will grow into its proper, official blessing." Tumi's eyes misted. "Thank you, Pastor. That means much." He patted her hand. "As we pray for Neo and Jiho's marriage, we will also pray for yours to take its right path when the time comes." Tumi exhaled softly, peace settling over her heart. The conversation shifted naturally toward the church back home. Tumi leaned forward, her voice earnest. "Pastor, you know how Neo and I grew. We know what it feels like to struggle. We have been thinking. We want to begin something, a project. For the girls in the church who have no parents, for the children who cannot pay school fees, for the mothers who need medicine." The pastor and his wife looked at her in surprise, then in deep joy. "Bless you, child," the wife said softly. "Already your heart thinks of others while you are celebrating your own joy." Pastor Empho's voice thickened with emotion. "Education is the seed, medicine is the shield. If you plant these, you give generations a future." Tumi nodded, her tears falling silently. "Then it is settled. Neo and I will begin after the wedding. This marriage is not just for us, it must lift others too." The pastor bowed his head. "You have spoken wisdom. May God multiply your vision." The next day, the cousins were restless with energy. They gathered eagerly in the lobby, their eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Tumi," Kagiso said softly, "we have seen photos of Seoul shops. Can we—" "Yes," Tumi said with a grin. "Today is for you. Neo cannot move much, but I will take you. Jiho has arranged everything. We have a card for your expenses. Clothes, gifts, anything you want. It is covered." The cousins' eyes widened, but their voices stayed respectful. "Thank you, Tumi. Thank you, Neo. We will not forget." They set out in a van, and soon the streets of Seoul opened before them. The cousins pressed their faces to the windows, marveling at neon signs, wide boulevards, and fashionable crowds. "Hey, even the streets are clean like glass," Labong whispered. "And the shops," Bulow exclaimed softly. "They shine like stars." When they stepped into a shopping district, their awe deepened. Stores glowed with bright displays, music poured from speakers, and mannequins wore outfits that looked like movie costumes. Toomey handed them the card, her voice warm. "Go, choose freely. Today is your day." The cousins bowed their heads slightly before dispersing into the shops, their laughter trailing behind them. Neo stayed at the hotel, resting. But through Toomey's care, through the cousins' joy, through the pastor's prayers, the family's first full day in Korea became one of warmth, honor, and new beginnings. The golden hour had draped itself over the Han villa, soft light catching the white arches and tiled roof, making them glow against the deepening sky. From the fountain in the courtyard, water rose and fell in gentle arcs, its sound mingling with the crisp evening breeze. The gates opened slowly, and the convoy of SUVs swept inside, tires crunching softly against the stone path. For the relatives from Botswana, it was a sight unlike any other. They stepped out of the cars one by one, their eyes wide, their voices lowered but bubbling with awe. "Hey, look at this house!" Auntie Kagosi whispered, clutching the edge of her shawl. "Even the windows shine like mirrors." "And the flowers," said Auntie Naledi, pointing to the gardens. "Roses and lilies everywhere. Can you smell them? Neo has entered another world." The cousins turned slowly, taking it in. Kagiso, the eldest, stood still for a moment, staring at the carved doors. "It is like the houses we see in films," he murmured. Libang nodded, his eyes darting across the roofline, the lanterns glowing faintly. "Not even films," he corrected. "Better. More real." At the top of the marble steps stood Neo, her face radiant with both pride and emotion. Beside her was Toomey, waving eagerly, her curls bouncing in the evening light. And just a step behind them, with his usual calm composure, stood Jiho, tall in his dark tailored suit, his posture dignified yet welcoming. Insu was close by, his own presence quieter but equally commanding, his coat draped neatly over one arm. Neo couldn't hold herself back. She hurried down the steps, her dress flowing around her as she ran straight into her Uncle Molefe's arms. "Uncle!" she cried, her voice trembling. He gathered her close, his strong hands holding her as though she were still a little girl. "My daughter, my blood," he said, his deep voice breaking with emotion. "You are here and we are with you. God has done it." Toomey joined next, hugging aunties, kissing cousins on the cheek, her laughter loud and bright. "Welcome, welcome. Tonight we are all one house." Neo then led them up the steps, her hand slipping into her uncle's as though guiding him into a sacred place. "This is your home too," she whispered. Grandmother's welcome. Inside, the relatives froze. The villa's entrance hall opened above them in sweeping heights, the ceiling painted with delicate frescoes, a chandelier dropping like a cascade of crystal rain. The polished marble floor gleamed under their feet, reflecting every movement. At the far end of the hall, in a carved wooden armchair, sat Grandmother Han. Her posture was straight despite her age, her silk shawl draped with elegance, her eyes sharp yet softened by the sight of Neo's family entering. Neo's voice trembled with pride. "Grandmother, this is Uncle Molefe, Auntie Naledi, Auntie Kagosi, Pastor Empho and his wife, and my cousins." Uncle Molefe stepped forward first, his suit slightly creased from travel but his dignity intact. He bowed his head deeply. "Grandmother Han, we greet you with respect. Thank you for raising Jiho to be who he is. Today we see the fruit of your labor." Grandmother's lips curved faintly, her voice clear and firm. "You are welcome here. Jiho is who he is because of the grace of God and the roots that held him. Now those roots join with yours. Sit, rest. Tonight, this house is your house." The aunties followed, bowing respectfully. They offered short greetings, their eyes glistening as they thanked her. The cousins bent lower, their respect palpable, whispering softly, "Thank you, grandmother." Neo felt her throat tighten at the sight. Her two worlds, now under one roof, acknowledging one another. Stay tuned for Saturday at 6 p.m. when we dive right into the wedding day. I'll need these 3 days to get all the images ready, and don't forget to stay sharp and hit that notification bell.